In this video, I will show several different ways of entering data into the R program. First, let's look at some of the structures that R uses to save data. The most important one for our purposes is going to be what's called the data frame. Vectors are important too, but mainly the data frame. So what is a data frame? Let's say you took data on something. We'll do a psychological experiment maybe, and we'll say we look at the weights of people at the beginning and the end of the semester based on whether they were allowed to play video games or not. So you would have, say your data would look like this. So here's your video game. You'd have a column of video games in your data, say, or organization of it. Then you have the weight at the beginning of the semester and the weight at the end of the semester. Alright, so say somebody wasn't allowed to play video games the whole semester. They weighed 170. By the end of the semester, they weigh 163. Another person started out 210 in the semester, they're at 170. Then the next person was allowed to play video games. He starts out at 170. By the end of the semester, he's at 235. Well, just made that up, of course. But what you do is you'll have data sort of organized like this. You'll have some kind of variable here, and that will be the heading of the column. Because I'm thinking geographically here, or sort of in a mathematical sense. So I'm thinking of it, there's a column of data, and here would be your heading, would be the variable. Here's another heading, here's another heading. This whole thing makes up the data frame, all of this together. And you would give it one name. If you're not too imaginative, you'll call it my data. Okay? And you'll notice that some of the data is going to be qualitative data. It's going to be expressed. It could be expressed with a number, but it's not going to matter too much. It's really a qualitative data. You're going to want to treat that as characters. So that's a character variable in your data frame. This is numeric, and it doesn't matter if it's continuous or discrete variables. If it's numerical data at all, just call it numeric. So now this is how you put the commands into R. First, you give it a name. This was some data that I took from the textbook and entered it. You can see that in the tutorial, but I gave it a name. Alright, if you don't give it a name, you just set it up, and you might as well have set it up in thin air, because it will disappear. Okay, after you give it the name, you use, okay, you see this symbol right here? That is the assignment symbol in R. You type the less than sign and then go up to the top of the keyboard and you type the dash. Can you type an equal sign? A lot of times you can get away with that too, but this is generally what you use right here. Okay, so you say that name, whatever the name is, my data, like I say, if you want to do something like that, you give a symbol, and then you tell it what it is, and we're going to say it's a data frame. So you type data dot frame. Yes, there's a dot in the middle of data frame. Okay, I want to say something now about capitalization and spelling. R is very picky on spelling. It's also very picky on capitalization. If you type all this lowercase, so if I'm typing the name of my data like that, and later on I type in with a capital, R won't recognize it. These are two totally different objects. So be careful on capitalization. Generally I try to use lowercase, but sometimes I use some kind of a convention where I'll put uppercase in the middle just to help to be able to read my variables. The next thing, and this is a style point but it's important, when you give the name of something, give it a name that you can remember. Don't make everything be XYZ. That's just it's gonna confuse you as well as everyone else. Okay, so I have a name for the data. I make an assignment and I say it's a data frame. Then I tell it what I want in each column and I give the names. The first thing was going to be rank. That was the name of my first column. and I have to tell it what it is. It's numeric data, then I type in numeric, and then I put a 0. You have to have this 0 business, parentheses, 0, parentheses. You see it right here. That just, right now it's a dummy length for the column. In a few minutes we will fix up the columns and put the data in. So the next column in this data set was company, and that was character data. And then I have to put the 0 there, and then I just continue, and when I'm done I have a final parenthesis. So the last thing's going to end up, or for example here I ended up with revenue, and it was numeric, and then it's 0 in parentheses, so then I need another parentheses to balance out the first one. Okay, got it? You're going to say a name, you make it equal to data.frame to tell the computer, to tell the program that you're going to have a data frame. Then you look across your columns and you give the heading for every column, and you tell and you're telling R whether it's numeric data or character data, and you put parentheses after it. There is another way, but this is a very good way to enter a data frame. I'll show you another way when we're done with this one. Okay, say you've set up your data frame and you didn't make any errors, or you fixed the errors you had, and now you want to put in some data. Okay, the command to use is fix. When you say fix and follow it by, in parentheses, your name of your data frame, it will open up this editing window, and you can go right in and just type everything in this editing window. And when you make a mistake, you can go, and once you're done, you close the editing window, but up until that point you don't have to worry. If you make a mistake, you just fix it up. When you're done entering the data, if you just type the name of your data frame, R will tell you exactly what's in there. You'll see the headings, and you'll see the listing of what's in there. It will give some numbers here. It just uses that. It adds that on its own. Let's say you want to just look at one part of the data. You want to look at one of the variables. There's two ways to do that. One, if you only have one data frame and you know there's nothing else with the name %1999 on it, at the prompt, let me get the pen here, sorry. At the prompt you can just type %1999. If there's any question, or if you just want to be real clear on things, and I usually prefer that, you type the name of the data frame, it's right here, then you type a $, and you type whatever variable you want after that. That's the more formal way to do it. I have a habit of doing things this way, and that's because I'm an old programmer, and when you write a program you want to make the most descriptive variables you can, because when you go back to look at it you're not going to remember what you did 3 months from now. I guarantee that. So if you have the variables as descriptive as possible, that will help you understand what you did, and maybe change it or fix it. Okay, so when you do this, I wanted only one variable. You see it just printed out these values here. It's a good idea to always print out what's in your variables and what's always in your data frames. You might be surprised. The second method to make video frames or data frames is to create vectors first. When you create vectors, let me get the pen here. You create vectors by giving it a name. So here's your name for the vector. Remember, if you don't do it, it just might as well be in thin air. Then you give either this assignment or sometimes an equal sign, and then you use the C. C means concatenate, which means to put everything together, or you can think combine it. And after that you list whatever is going to go into that particular vector. Each column here, each one of these columns is a vector. Okay, so you assign these vectors. Now instead of saying character or numeric, you just type in the values. If you type in the numbers, it's going to be numeric data. If you want it to be character data, the names of things, qualitative variables, then you have to put them inside of quotes. And if you don't match the quotes up, of course it's going to be an error, and you'll have to go back and fix that. Then once you have all your vectors set up, now you're not using that fix, you're just typing the vectors in. So once you have all your data fixed up, Then you can give it the name again, say it's a data frame, and there's a better marker here, so it's a data frame, and then just give the name of the vectors. I type triple W attacks. This is for attacks on computer systems, and their origins at 2 different dates. This is in the textbook, and you can see you can see it gave the data just like it did before when I used fix. So here I'm going to repeat what I showed that was in the written tutorial. I'm going to repeat it by typing it in to R just to show you how it goes. Of course, you can watch me a zillion times. The only way you're going to learn is to do it yourself. So let me do that example where I use fix first. So this is data from the textbook again, and it was computer system attacks. So I give it the name, then I use the assignment, then I tell it's a data frame with a dot in the middle of data frame, and I'm going to have different variables. They'll make up those columns of data. The first one is going to be the site, which was character data, and put a 0 because that's the column length and I need that. Now I don't want to keep typing on one line, it gets kind of long, so I can hit enter, and now R knows that's not the end of the command because it knows that the parentheses I started doesn't have an ending parentheses, so it's looking for more, and it gives, instead of that less than sign, it gives a plus sign, and it means, you know, it knows it's part of the previous line. It's one command. So here was another %1999, and that was numeric data, and then there was another variable %2001, and that's also numeric data. And you'll see I'm a very fast typist, probably one of the fastest in the world, but I make more mistakes than anybody makes. I don't know, I just go fast and then make mistakes and fix them. It looks like right now there are no mistakes to fix. If there are, we'll take care of it. So I hit enter, and now I want to go down and enter the data, so I'm going to type fix. Okay, now I type fix, but I have to tell it what I'm going to fix, and I give it the name of that data frame that I created. And now here's the window. Let me move it back so it's kind of in the space there, and I can just go and type in here what I need to. So it was inside, outside, both. Sometimes it doesn't always fit in there, but it works out. Okay, that's fine. I want to do the percentages over here. 7, I'm using the down key, or you can use tab. 21 and 14, and if I don't like what I did, I can go back up here and I can fix it. It was 7, so I just fix it again, and now I have 4, 47, 23, and 26. Okay, I'm done with it. When I'm done with the data and I like what I entered, I close it by hitting the red X. Okay, it gave me a warning. Don't worry about that warning, but I'm back to the console window where I can type. Now I want to check that what I typed in came out right. So I type the name of my data frame, and there's all the data right back out. See the heading, site, %1999, %2001, and you see all the data right there. Again, if I want to just look at one column, let's say I just want to look at site, I can go W attacks, and then, wait a minute, didn't do that right, $, and say site, and it would just give me that data. Okay, now I want to show the other way to make a data frame, and that involves using vectors. So to do that, I'm going to first set up the vectors. Let me give it some different names here. I'll just put A's with all of them. So the site, I put a C, and then I have to type everything in, but I've got to put quotes on it because it's character data. Well, that capital is wrong. It's okay. And now if you like things to be right, you can go back over and fix them by using the arrow keys again. So here's, I'll make that be capital B, and maybe outside I'll make those all headings be there. Okay, I'm done. I like that. Now I want the percent, so I'll just say PC 1999, assignment symbol C, and now I just have to type the numbers when it's just numerical data. 38, 41, and 14. Okay, good. And then I can go and make another vector of this data for 47, 23, and 26. Now I have all my data entered. Of course, if I don't like it, I can still use fix when I'm done. Now I'm going to say, I'll give it a different name just because I'm demonstrating here, and I'll say this is a data frame, so I'm combining all that data into a data frame. And now instead of telling it what it is, all I have to do is give the names for each of the variables, and those will become the columns. So site, whoops, that wasn't right. Looks like I have some strangeness there, but I think we're okay. Want to see what's in it? There it is. There's some other ways to enter values. You'll encounter these later on in the course. So you want to make, well, okay, this first example here is just for a vector, and you know how to do that now. Say you want a bunch of integers, like 100 of them, maybe to make a graph. Okay, give it a name. Remember, if you don't give it a name, it gets lost. The command seq, right here, seq, that's a, whoops, let me try to pick up that pin here for a minute. That gives a sequence. You give it the start, say -4, the maximum value 5, and you say how you want it to go. By ones, we'll give you, it's typed out right here, -4, -3, -2, -1, all the way up to 5. If you say by 2, it will skip and give you every second one, this being the start and that being the ending number. There's another command that's called pretty that really isn't so pretty sometimes. It has a little bit of a different format. The first and the last values you put with a colon between them, and then n is the number of intervals you want between. In this case, you want 4 equally spaced intervals between 1 and 15, and so it doesn't give you exactly 1 or exactly 15. It just sort of works it out. Again, it's used for graphing. So this would have 4 intervals. This one has 3. Interesting, it looks the same. And here's one where you say 5, and now look what you got. So check it out after you make it and see if it's what you want. If you don't want those numbers, you can always go back and use C and put in exactly what you want. Those are just some other ways to enter data values. The third way for entering data is to attach or read in a data set that's already been prepared and is stored on the computer. R comes with many data sets, just your basic installation. Also, you can download and activate even more than the 100 that you get automatically with R. There's data that comes with the textbook, but you don't have to use that for this course. The reason for that is some people might have bought a used textbook and that data just might not have been there. So for this class, I'll either give you something that's easy to read into R, or we'll use the ones that are already installed with R. The reason for that is there are very few commands when you use the ones that are ready for R, and the command you can use is attach. Okay, and then in parentheses you give the name. So attach, and then here's that Motor Trend card data. When you type the name of it, you can get out everything that's listed in there. And some of them are very long, and that's why you want to have something that's already been prepared. And I'm going to attach a data set. And I'm attaching one from R called chick weight. So I've attached it. And now let's see what's in it. Well, that looks like a whole bunch of stuff. So you can see there's 578 entries in it. Aren't you glad you didn't have to enter that yourself? Like, somebody did, right? Okay, we're right here. So when I attach chick weight, it turns out that there are 4 variables in it. One's called weight, one's called time, one's called chick, and one's called diet. So it was different kinds of chickens fed different kinds of diets. If you look down here, you'll see that there's diet 1, diet 2, diet 3, diet 4. So it's fed different kinds of diets. And here are the weights listed here. I want to remind you something about R. R is case sensitive. So, well, let me demonstrate it in a minute. You see weight has a lowercase w, diet has an uppercase, chick has an uppercase, time has an uppercase. Those are all different variables as they're capitalized in R. So if something doesn't work out right, it might be because your capitalization is wrong. So I'll demonstrate that now. Okay, if I want to see what's in a variable, generally I can go give the name of the data frame, put a $sign, and put the variable. This is a long and formal way to do it, but I'll do it this way to demonstrate it. Okay, let's say I put diet. Well, it gives me all the different, it just lists all of them. Was it 578 numbers that were associated with the column, the variable diet. Now if I do the same thing, but I put a lowercase d, which seems innocuous enough, I don't get anything because it says there's nothing in there, because it thinks that uppercase diet and lowercase diet are 2 different variables. That's why it's a good idea to look at the data set. As you can see here, this particular one has non-standard capitalization.